The date is April 7th, 2021. Two comrades, tired of being pushed around and disrespected in their old guild, decide to leave and form their own guild. This is how the guild KEO was established. The main purpose of the guild was to gear up new players for raids and of course raid. On top of that, generally have fun. Shortly after its creation, it was advertised in World Chat as an English-speaking guild looking for friendly players. Recruiting went smoothly. There were new players looking to get geared, and experienced players just looking for a nice guild to join. And after clearing several mythic keys and grinding world bosses in Pandaria, the guild decided it would be a good idea to have their very first raid in Uldir. Knock knock, it's the 15th of May. There's an announcement in the Discord server. A raid at 8 PM. Splendid. Officer Fluffy, an OG member who joined day 1, will be raid leading. Even more wonderful, that mathematical bastard. The goal of the raid? Obtain every achievement and unlock the mount. The raid went perfectly. The first boss was easily killed and the achievement was earned. The second one was also stumped to a pulp and the achievement was earned. And repeat that process up until the second to last boss. Now the thing about the second to last boss is not that the achievement is hard to obtain. No. You see, the problem is the boss is kept in a pit, and the game is supposed to be designed so when you jump down the pit you take no fall damage. This was not the case. Our mages would jump down and suffer horrible fates via terminal velocity. Now granted, eventually they did find a way to get down without dying. However, by that time, people forgot how to obtain the achievement. So this led to a couple wipes, and then eventually the raid had to be called off, until a later date. But worry not, try again they did, and succeed they did as well. After coming back to the second to last boss, as said previously, they managed to kill him and get the achievement, and the last boss was a breeze. But, more importantly, aside from the achievement, they had got the mount. Hey look, is that me? Regardless, it was after these Uldir raids that the guild would go on to schedule Nyalotha runs, and that brings us to the end of the Uldir chapter.
Check me out, y'all.
Man, I really gotta stop making boss showreels. They're gonna get old real quick. But yes, as I was saying, after the success that was Uldir, the guild obviously scheduled Nyalotha runs shortly after. The very first attempt would be on normal difficulty, simply to adjust to the boss mechanics and get comfortable with the raid group. And granted, even though on the very first boss they almost completely wiped, thankfully they didn't. In fact, the Dragon Dumpy was really the only thing in the way that day, for the second fight they had ahead of them was nothing more than a walk in the park. There were laughs to be had, walls to be ran into, and lava pits to be flown to. After taking out the trash, they went on to fight Mout, the third boss. There was a bit of difficulty in understanding the mechanics, but in the end it only took one attempt to defeat him as well. With it being on normal difficulty, of course, the rest of the bosses were incredibly easy. However, A small important detail when it comes to the raid is that it's split up into 4 wings, and having a total of 12 bosses. At the time of the raid, there were only 2 wings and 6 bosses available, last one being Raden, this guy. And still, they easily cleared the 6 bosses and mocked the bosses to come. Filled with ambition, and with such a successful day under their belt, they scheduled a heroic version of the raid just next week. Same plan of attack, same raid group, and best of all, same outcome. Alright, so that's actually a lie. Here's how it actually went. After wiping once on the beginning and nearly wiping again, Dragon Boy goes down. Spider Lady was easy and died quickly. Then the Stowe statue was a little bit difficult. It took 3 attempts and 6 mental disorders to conquer, but in the end, they did manage to do it. And afterwards, our heroes were a little stumped, so they called it off for today and decided to continue the raid the day after. Upon returning, they killed almost everyone. Everyone except the final boss at the time. That was Raden, this guy. You see, Raiden has a few annoying mechanics that could kill nearly everyone very easily. The group had some trouble adapting, but as with any story, they almost gave up. Yeah. Yet, they didn't. And with their final attempts, the stars aligned, and the mages were not all one-shot, which means Zeus went down. And with that, the first of many heroic raids was a success. Celebrating, with their hands facing the sky, they proclaimed triumph over the waking city, and they also announced a round 2 for the next week, just shortly after. Without too much detail, each raid after that one went by relatively the same. Each had its own triumphs and its own defeats. Then the 3rd wing was released, and with it came all new bosses. After jumping down a living pit and suffering a moderate amount of deaths, they had to fight through waves of mobs just to reach the new bosses. It didn't go too well. Truth be told, the first few attempts were a disaster. After barely reaching the 7th boss by the skin of their teeth, they wiped twice and decided to call off the raid. But, as history has shown before, after a good rest, they came back and slayed all the new mobs, with only minor casualties. The loot was great, the satisfaction even greater. They rejoiced by the end of the 3rd wing, and carried on raiding weekly heroics as usual. And even though not every raid group was the same, and sometimes had to incorporate random players from around Azeroth, everyone from KEO, mostly, enjoyed the company of the random allies that joined along the way, despite not being in the guild. And things continued regularly until the final wing, the dreaded 4th wing, containing one of the hardest main villains in the game, was released. Now N'Zoth slapped major ass. He was a challenge even in heroic, despite the fact that the core raiders had gear for mythic by the time the 4th wing was released. N'Zoth was really hard, and took quite a few attempts to get right, and even when the entire raid group understood the mechanics, it was still a real uphill battle for a while. To put to scale, one tiny mistake and the entire earth would explode. There were oh so many troubles with this instance. Randoms getting angry and leaving, guildings getting tired and plotting assassination attempts on Fluffy for getting such bad randoms, and so on. As with any fork in the road so far, there was one magical attempt, where the entire squad went full throttle nuts to butts in the action. Perhaps they got lucky, perhaps they realized what they were supposed to do, but in the end they did manage to kill N'Zoth and finish Ny'alotha for a long time. However, our story doesn't end there. For you see, of course, while waiting for the wings to be released, they obviously did mythic runs. And after clearing N'Zoth on heroic, they went on to clear him on mythic. The entire mythic raiding experience can be summed up in just 3 words.
Uh-oh. Stinky!
Every single boss took 2 attempts bare minimum. Mount, Raiden, Karpus, and N'Zoth took a few extra attempts, especially N'Zoth. You could say clearing Mythic N'Zoth was KEO's 2nd greatest achievement. More on that later. Not too much can be said about the Mythic raids, other than that they were the same as the heroic ones, just more difficult and demanded more. Now the Mythic and the heroic raids would go on for quite some time. There were sometimes transmog raids where a bunch of people would just run old instances for cosmetics, but those weren't really considered official sign up or you lose your spot type raids. Along with helping new guildies get gear, there was plenty of casual stuff that happened in between the raids. People posting about their achievements and such, unlocking rare mounts or reaching a certain item level, stuff like that. There was a certain type of harmony to the guild, along with the server, and by the end of WoW Battle for Azeroth, KEO had well over 200 members cemented in the pages of history. And that leads us to the end. Oh no, wait, not the end of the video. Eternity's End, the new expansion. Now let us go. It is time to embark on an even greater journey than ever before. So I actually lied about the whole Eternity's End thing. We're not doing that yet. Right now we're doing Castle Nathria and the whole Shadowlands thing. Yeah. I mean, I really just kind of wanted a cool ending for Chapter 3, you know. But before that, this video is sponsored by... The main thing that led to KEO transitioning over to Shadowlands was the fact that they were tired of doing the same content over and over again. I mean, Shadowlands offered a whole new slew of things, such as new raids, new dungeons, new quests, new NPCs, new zones. All around it was a lot of new things. So, in agreement with the guildies, KEO transferred to Shadowlands, and with it came a new server and a new logo as well. At the beginning, everyone went their separate ways, leveling to max and getting some basic gear. When they finished all that, it was back to grinding dungeons and world bosses. Just like old year, when everyone felt prepared for the raids, they started running Castle Nathria on normal. In fact, the footage you're seeing right now is that raid. In the words of the co-founder, it went pretty smoothly. Oops, spoiler. But yes, it was in fact so smooth that they got the server first full clear on normal difficulty. Now that is what some might consider KEO's greatest achievement. Albeit the boss was completely broken, but by the end of the raid, the loot was good. Good enough to the point where they started running Castle Nathria on heroic right after. Now on that side of the fence, things weren't as smooth. You could say they died a moderate amount of times, and they're still stuck on the Stone Legion Generals. That would be the 9th boss, second to last, as usual. But let's be real, it's gonna take them like 3 more attempts max to beat it. If they didn't already, since I'm a bit slow at making videos. I mean, hey, if they could kill a big green boy with a handful of attempts, who's to say they can't do the same for a few generals? But yeah, that's really about it when it comes to Castle Nathria. More or less the dungeons take up a large part of what KEO does day to day leading up to a raid. I mean, after all, how are you gonna get gear for the raids if you don't get the gear for the dungeons? And that actually brings us to present day. There obviously isn't as much to say as Nyalotha had, but I don't think I have to. You can't rush history, but you can also experience it firsthand. You know, KEO is always accepting members as long as you're polite. If you ever wish to just start playing, or even join a guild, it's never too late to join us. You have groups of people who gear up together, and others who organize their own raids sometimes. I'm sure you'll find a good place here. You can brag about cool mounts, or laugh alongside comrades. You can make fun of officers and suffer no consequences whatsoever, or just play the game. We welcome you with open arms, friend. And that leads me to the actual end of the video. It took some time to make, but it was a fun experience. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. And if you really liked it, look forward to more. I'm considering making similar videos, just with different topics. And I guess that would be all for now. Sorry if this chapter was a little short, but I'm sure I'll make up for it eventually. See ya!